For many ventriloquists, the most commonly asked question is not, how do you talk without moving your lips? Instead, it's that age-old, tired old joke, which one of you is the dummy? For me, though, the most commonly asked question has to be, why don't you ever use your puppet Jerry anymore? And so, to answer that question in his own words, here is Jerry.
My ventriloquist put me in a box.
And I firmly closed the lid.
Was it something I said or something I did?
He asked me why, and I said, you can't deny.
With a face like this, I sure terrify the kids.
Well, here we are at How to Be a Ventriloquist, Part 6. And if you've watched all the other videos, you have learned all the technical basics you need to be a ventriloquist. What you need now is practice, practice, practice. I'm not going to give you any more lists of words and phrases because at this point, you can pick up any book, magazine, or newspaper and practice by simply reading. There aren't any sounds you can't do. If you're feeling courageous, some Dr. Seuss books can be a lot of fun and really good practice. Check the description for some affiliate links to a couple of his books that are really fun to practice with. They will give your tongue a real workout. But today, what I mainly want to talk about is choosing a puppet. I began the video with a short I created last year with my puppet Jerry. Jerry is the first professional ventriloquist puppet I ever purchased. He has a lot of bells and whistles. He winks, he blinks, he turns his head, and even raises his eyebrows. And sadly, I hardly ever use him. I bought him because he's the traditional ventriloquist figure that we all associate with ventriloquism. But there were two things that I didn't realize. The first thing was how much I would be using the puppet at children's camps and children's programs at churches, libraries, and schools. And the second thing I didn't realize was how terrifying a puppet like that can be to young children. For some kids, Jerry is almost as big as they are. And I think there may be a little bit of uncanny valley feeling. He's so close to being human, yet not quite, and that can be unsettling for children. To make matters worse, one of the gags I used to do with him was that I kept him in a big suitcase. And at the end of the skit, he would beg me not to put him back in there. And I would put him in anyway and have him call, "Let me out, let me out," while I closed the lid and made his voice muffled as the lid closed. It was funny for the grown-ups and the older kids, but not at all funny for younger kids. So I took something that was a bit unnerving to begin with, and I made it even more so. My point in all this is twofold. First, don't assume that you need an expensive puppet. And second, that you really need to give some thought to who your audience is going to be before you start picking puppets. My most popular puppet is George, the dodo bird. He is an Axtel Creations puppet, and the original puppet cost me $100. He lasted 22 years, and then I had Steve create a matching puppet. At last check, the dodo bird is about $270, which is still significantly cheaper than the standard slotted jaw ventriloquist figures. A non-affiliate link to Axtel's extensive inventory of puppets is given below. But even one of these gorgeous puppets may be more expensive than you want to deal with right now, especially since you're probably just beginning. My second most popular puppet is Jeffrey the Timberwolf. He is a Folk Manus puppet that I bought for $20 at a kiosk at the main mall. I'm linking to the Folk Manus page on Amazon, but be aware, not all of their puppets are full-body puppets. If they are missing legs, they do not work well for ventriloquism. They're designed more for work behind a puppet stage. Also, many of the Folk Manus puppets have very small hand openings because they are designed for children. If you want to get a Folk Manus puppet, you might be better off going to a toy store that stocks them so you can actually put your hand inside and see how it fits. My newest puppet I've named Merple Punster, and he was another Amazon purchase, linked below. He was relatively inexpensive, and I got him because I wanted to be able to create what I refer to as my fuzzy monster choir. I heavily auto-tune the voices, and I also color correct the purple monster to green and to blue to form a choir of multicolored monsters. Beyond that, because most of my ventriloquism work has been for church ministry, over the years various people have freely given me puppets that they no longer use, because they wanted them to continue to be of service. Here is a picture of all the gift puppets I have inherited. The boy puppet on the right, I bought glasses and a bow tie for. That is a really good illustration of clothes make the man. He originally looked like a kid, but with the glasses and the tie, now he's a young college professor. Keep that in mind as you're looking at puppets. You can accessorize puppets in ways that will make them into entirely different characters. And here's a really interesting thing. The boy puppet and the girl puppet on the right were given to me by two different people. But if you look at them closely, you'll realize they are exactly the same puppet, except for the hair and the clothes. Basically, they are my brother and sister puppets. I don't actually use the girl puppet in shows, but I have inserted her into a couple videos when I was singing a song with a very high alto part. I should mention that when I decided to start making videos for YouTube with my puppets, I ran into an interesting dilemma with George the dodo bird. I didn't have an attractive space for recording video, so I wanted to green screen him. Alas, George has some green in him, so I couldn't do that. And he also contains blue and yellow and red, so there weren't many options. In the end, I had to get a purple screen. So there are some ideas for you. It's time to start exploring options. Study puppets. Think about the clothes and the accessories, if any, that you want to put on them. Think about your intended audience and how they're going to connect with different kinds of puppets. Obviously, you also need to think about your budget and start shopping. And in the next video, I'll talk about some of the technical aspects of using the puppet. I'll see you then.